Hey guys, Magna back here for some more tutorials. Today we're going to be talking about using Harassment against Terran as a Zerg player, and we're going to be talking about some early game options you can use for this, trying to get some prolonged damage out of your Harassment, and as well as punishing Terran for being on the map is going to be a pretty common theme throughout most of this, and that's kind of a more advanced and higher level thing. I realize a lot of players that you play against might not be the type of players that are always on the map and trying to deal damage. And you can hear me fiddling with my tabs back here, but let's just go ahead and jump into the game and we'll talk about some options you can use for Harassment here. We should also note that we did talk about Mutalisks in another video, and Mutalisks are one of the most main forms of Harassment, as well as Zergling and Baneling run-bys and whatnot in the later portions of the game. We've kind of covered that already, so go back and watch the Mutalisk videos if you have more curiosity about that. We might touch on it a little bit here, but not too much, considering if it's about Mutalisk specifically, we've already really covered that part. And you can find those extra Zerg tutorials in the description of the video down below, so look out for that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and fast forward up until the point where we can start seeing the Harassment come down. We've talked a lot about openers already, nothing too crazy to see here. Just defending from a Reaper opener, getting Queens out, getting Zerglings, nothing too crazy, getting speed started. This is all really standard stuff here from Zerg player. And starting a third hatchery about at this time, maybe 6 minutes or so, is really common. This is going to be different though. He's going to be starting a fast lair. And faster lairs are going to be one of the better ways to harass a Terran with tech. You're either going to do this by using a tech that they're not used to, say something weird like burrowed roaches, maybe even burrowed infestors, which is made to be like, what? Burrowed infestors in this matchup? So weird. But honestly, that's what we're going to see in this game, so this is pretty cool. And also the fast lair can be for things like really fast Mutalisks. If you can kind of get mutas on top of their base before they would be expecting it, maybe like 10-minute mutas or something, that can be a really good option. So fast lair, and note that he has not stopped mining gas even after starting a Zergling speed, even though most pros will actually take a third base and stop mining gas. So that's kind of the trade-off here. He's putting up a wall, not taking a third base, getting all of his gases really fast, considering if you get the faster lair, you will want your gases faster rather than slower, considering it's going to be for a higher level tech. And like I talked about, this game is going to be for really fast infestors, so there we go. And he's actually proxying the infestation pit, which before this video I was thinking, oh, it'd be pretty cool if people would proxy buildings in this matchup, and funny enough, we're actually seeing it now. So there's also Burrow on the way, like I talked about, considering the Burrowed Infestors is going to be what he chooses for this game. And this is a really weird build. I should also mention that this can be viable, but this is strange. Infestor Ling hasn't been very common in ZvT for a long time, considering most players are more comfortable with going for Aspire and playing it out that way. But the Burrow, the pathogen glands, and getting Infestors out this early, what this is going to do is this is going to punish Terran for not putting up turrets at the front of their base. Which seems so funny because Terrans never ever do that. There's really never a reason for a Terran to do that. And that's what this is punishing. Kind of punishing a hole in the Terran game that Terrans really would never even think about. So this is a funny build. You can go ahead and use it, but this is just to give you ideas of things you can do if you want to harass a Terran to death rather than having to fight his army on over and over. The other side of this is that if you can catch big bio armies with good upgrades, like you have good upgrades on your Lings, for example, and you have Banelings out and you can hit them with fungal growths, then all of a sudden dealing with those armies is a lot easier, considering they can't really micro away from Banelings and stuff like that. So these Infestor openers are something that I honestly think is going to get more common in this matchup, but for right now, the matchup is so stable and everyone knows how to play the same way that it's not really used that often. So we're going to see the Infestors burrow in here and throw down a bunch of infested Terrans. This is about the time where Terrans would be thinking about adding on turrets against Mutalisks anyway, so this is a little bit risky to go in this far. But this is going to punish Terran for being out on the map. And there's also big fungos coming down here like I was talking about. So this is one of the things that these really early Infestors can do that really will catch Terrans off guard. So like we've talked about a lot of the Terran aggression will be centered around Hellions in the early game, but then once they get the first two medevacs, they're going to start pushing out on the map and start to be aggressive with that. So you can stop those medevac pushes with the Infestors, and also in the meantime when they're not on the map, or rather when they're not back home with most of their army, you can use these silly plays like these infested Terran drops and make them at minimum waste units having to deal with just Infestor energy. So lots of funny stuff going on here from MMA, and he's probably seeing these and he's like, what is this? I have not ever seen anything like this before. and this is probably part of the reason he's getting such great trades with these infested Terrans. But yeah, so the push on the other side just gets wasted by the Lings and Infestors. Look at the supply difference already, a 30 supply lead, and a lot of SCVs were already killed. So 20 SCVs killed. That's mostly going to be what represents the supply lead from here. So this is a really cool play here from Starbuck. He's known for playing pretty weird, but you also do need to make sure you are getting your own drones, and you are getting your later stages of tech as well. So more harassment coming down here right now with the Zerglings. It's always an option, especially if they're too busy worrying about other types of attacks. So there are Infestors still here in the main. If he were to bring his whole army back to try and deal with Infestors, you know, infested Terrans or whatnot, it always leaves the other bases open, especially if they do take orbitals instead of planetaries, for your Zerglings to deal damage. So kind of just multi-pronging him and abusing the fact that his army can't be everywhere at once is the idea with what Starbuck is doing this game. So it's a pretty wild game. I haven't seen anything quite like this for quite a long time. More infested Terrans being dropped here in the main, and note that he just can't be everywhere at once. He's just losing SCVs everywhere. And if you look at the income now, it's 31 SCVs at this stage of the game for MMA, which is hilarious. And that's because 43 workers have been killed. So this is a pretty crazy opener that I saw this game and I just really, really loved. MMA is just like, okay, well, I'm just dead, so I don't know what to do. So yeah, I saw this game and I was like, this is so cool and so weird, and I really want to see more stuff from this out of pro players. So I thought you guys would like that as far as if you wanted to try and harass Terran to death. Let's take a look at another one here, though. It'll be a little bit more normal. This is going to be MVP versus Vortex. And we talked about a lot. There's going to be things like just simple Ling counterattacks that's going to do a lot of damage. We will see stuff like that. And that's mostly to punish Terrans that are out on the map. So if you're not getting Terrans that are going to be doing those same things, then it's not really that big of a deal to start worrying about these simple Ling counterattacks. But if you are facing Terrans that like to get on the map early, you can just punish them for not being back at home like we saw in the last game. So again, we're not going to pay too much attention to the openers because we've talked about this so many times. Vortex, interestingly enough, going pool first. Pool first is going to be really good against things like Reaper openers. So that's going to be kind of the start of what we're going to see here. Sorry, let me slow down the game. So we're going to get really early Zerglings out here. If you put out maybe 6 Zerglings or so, that's going to be pretty strong at harassing this, considering a lot of Terran builds will be things like Command Center first or a Reaper opener, and a lot of times against a Reaper opener you can cancel the Command Center if you open up with this pool first. So pool first against Terran is more so for aggression rather than for safety most of the time, but it offers both avenues, and it doesn't hurt your drone count too much. So MVP was decently prepared against this, and that's why this didn't do a lot of damage. But there's a lot of games that you're going to see on the pro level where they're open pool first and just produce like 6 Zerglings and walk in there and be able to cancel a Command Center or something against a Reaper opener. So that's really, really strong. Also, let's note, fast layer once again. This was a more simple version considering he's not mining extra gas. Once he starts the layer is when he starts all of his extra gases. And this could be for something as simple as just the 2-base Mutalisk like we were talking about before. So this doesn't have to be anything too crazy. It can just be something that's fairly, I guess, predictable. But here's the Mutalisk now. He's also being very smart, and he's showing Roach Warren to the Hellions out here, because if you show Roach Warren and they can see the Roach Warren but they can't see the Spire for some reason, then they're going to think roaches and they might do silly things like produce tanks, and especially skimp on the static defenses such as turrets against Mutalisk. So this is a really smart 2-base Mutalisk play that we're seeing here out of Vortex. So let's go ahead and fast forward until those are out. And more importantly, if they want to be out on the map with their Hellions and stuff, then the Mutalisk will come out so fast that they can just kill everything and kind of push him all the way back to his base. This is so funny because look at MVP's reactions here. He's starting up the slowing, he's starting up Marauders, thinking that this is going to be a big Roach timing, considering he's seeing what he thinks he sees is 2-base Roach. He's even scanned the main, and he sees the lair, thinking that this might be just for Roach speed, which he's researching, by the way, just to totally sell this. But the ultimate thing is that the Mutalisks are on the way, and MVP has no idea, and he has no tools against that. So now he scans and sees the Mutalisks because they were rallied improperly, and now he's starting to freak out and be like, oh my god, I need a Viking, I need mines, this is so bad. So the reactions are pretty funny here. And the Mutalisks don't have to do a ton. I mean, they can do some things, but they don't have to really kill a lot. You can see if the Terran just doesn't have answers, they're going to lose a lot of SCVs. And they're not really going to have a lot of tools, especially if you were to sell them something different, like a Roach All-In. The funny thing is that the Roach All-In is actually following, or not Roach All-In, but Roach Play is following this up. And from this point, now that he has Lair and he has Roach Speed, he could research tunneling claws and start to punish the Terran for being in improper points on the map. But this game is pretty much already over. I mean, look at the supplies right now, 98 to 52. There was already 26 worker kills on Vortic's side. He did lose a little bit to the Hellion run-bys and Banshees and stuff. But either way, I mean, he's got a pretty decent economic advantage right now, 45 to 22. That's pretty devastating, and it was all simply created by this 2-base lair and really fast Mutalisk play. So that's something that you can do in your own games. If you want to sell them something different, or maybe you can open up with those burrowed infestor stuff that we saw before and kind of catch them off guard in different ways. So there's two pretty good options here. But let's go ahead and take a look at a third game, and that's going to show us a little bit more conventional harassment that you might see in more common higher level games. So this is going to be Hyun versus Taeja, and these two players are some of the best foreign tournament players. They are both Koreans, of course, but they mop up like pretty much every foreign tournament that there is. So these guys are pretty good. So notice that this is also a fairly short game, and with harassment, this is, I mean, we've talked a lot about later game harassment, like we've already said, with Mutalisk play, so go back and watch the Mutalisk video if you want to see more later game harassment, but this is more so just like harassment-based openers and harassment tools that you can use throughout the game. So here's a hatchery first from Hyun, the gas and pool starting at the same time roughly. It's going to be a Reaper opener from Taeja, so all this stuff is really normal. 6 lings just to push off the Reaper once it comes in, so nothing too crazy going on here. We've talked about this tons of times. Third command center on the way for Taeja, so all this is really, really normal stuff. Hellions coming out, like we've talked about, always going to be Hellions. Third hatchery on the way for the Zerg. More Zerglings just to help push off these Hellions. The high queen count is also really important, but this is going to be the part where we start to talk a little bit about punishing Terran for being out on the map. If you're fighting a lot of players that like to open up with these Hellion plays and deal some damage, you can kind of bait them down here to your third. You can protect well against queens. Maybe you can start a wall here to try and funnel the Hellions and maybe block them off from running into your base. But mostly this is going to be about Zerglings being created and just running around those units that are on the map and punishing him for not being at home. So like we've been alluding to this a little bit, and this is what we're finally going to see, is that if he's not at home, he doesn't have the right tools to deal with this, bam, he knocks down the bunker, he can come in here, he can start killing SCVs, and this is all possible because the Terran's army's out on the map. So it can kind of be one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, you want to harass me? Well, I can harass you for a lot cheaper, and I can hold your harass if I just get enough queens out, and if I just control properly. So now that Taeja is showing up, okay, I want to get back out on the map, you can see this with this Overlord. He's still just saying, okay, well, if you're going to be out on the map, then I'll just make Zerglings and I'll just punish you for doing that. So, again, just rallying forward once again. Sometimes you might not be able to get in here if the wall is completed, but if you can get in here fast enough, the bunkers probably won't be done. Supply depots might be down, stuff like that. And this seems silly, but it's at least holding Taeja off from killing a lot of workers of Hyun's. And he's still able to get things like mules, he's able to get a few SCV kills here and there. And more importantly, this is going to force Taeja to not really get the tempo that he wanted throughout this game. So far, there have already been 7 worker kills, which doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're harassing the Terran at a point where their build is designed to harass you, then that's a really, really big win for you. So just continue to press forward into this game here, and noting that Taeja's build is so interrupted because of these little plays. So far, he's also getting roaches up here to maybe try to defend against the Hellions, or this might be for a longer-term roach play. Hyun, one of the more aggressive Zerg players, known for being a little bit more involved with roach play against Terran, so if this is the case and they aren't able to quite get on their feet with everything that they want to get up with, then this could be the point where you can win the game pretty easily because they just aren't quite prepared for it. So a lot of roaches on the way here, and I think Taeja is just going to straight up die because his build was so interrupted by that little Zergling harass. And like I said, it seems funny, but it can definitely snowball out of control pretty fast. So a lot of roaches are on the way. Basically, he's going to clean this up and kind of walk across the map and kill him, and that'll end the game. But I did want to mention that there are other options, such as Roach Burrow, if you want to play a roach-based strategy. You can just, there's no real turrets here because he hasn't seen anything like Spire or anything. There's one turret back in the main. So you could just burrow some roaches and get him in here on the map if he's being too aggressive out here. So there's really not a whole lot more to talk about, but the early harassment with those lings, it only killed 7 workers, but at the same time, it put Taeja so far behind here. Look at the supplies, 152 to 111, that if you can get harassment that early and kill SCVs that early, and especially mules, something that were not counted in their worker kills, can be a big, big thing. as far as slowing Terran down and giving you the opportunity to kill them in the mid-game stages. We're seeing right here. So he's just basically attacking across here. He's just going to end the game with this. And that's about all she wrote. There's only another minute left in this game. The other attacks are also being dealt with okay, so you can just produce more roaches to push this off. So this video is mostly just about giving you guys some ideas about things you can do to take the harassment back to Terran and not having to hold it off the entire game. These strategies also are a little bit, I don't want to say gimmicky because they can be very stable, but they are a little bit more risky in the sense that if your harassment doesn't really do anything, then all of a sudden you've invested a lot of stuff into early game units that didn't help you win the game. So this is a little bit feast or famine, I suppose, but there are definitely options for kind of killing Terran's worker count earlier in the game rather than just being the person that accepts the Terran attacking you all game. So I hope at least this gave you guys some ideas, and maybe you will enjoy playing a little more aggressive styles like this. So I'll be back with more videos in the near future, so look out for that. There's also more Zerg videos down in the description, so check that out, and I will see you next time.